thank you very much for coming. We'd like to thank Islamic Society of Corona, Norco, for hosting this event for us. So thank you, Fawzia Rizvi, General Secretary. We also like to thank Indivisible 42 and all the volunteers who worked very hard to put this together. As you know, Indivisible 42 is a grassroots organization which actually working with the constituents from all parties to provide us a forum, a platform where we can all come and listen to the candidates who will be representing us in Congress. The purpose of Indivisible 42 is to make sure that those who will represent us in Congress in Washington, D.C. do care about and they do go ahead and vote on the bills which does affect everyone in this country. But also they do look at their own district, in the district of 42nd, and make sure that they vote for us. And that's why today they have put together this forum. I'm going to go through the rules for the candidates. So we're going to start the program with the round one. It's called Candidate Open Time. In the first round, each candidate will have 20 minutes total. They will speak and introduce themselves, tell us about their policies are and why they are running. So after the first 10 minutes, they will have a remaining 10 minutes to answer the questions which were given to us by you guys, especially the constituents. And they have 10 minutes to answer either one question, or they can take all 10 minutes and answer 12 questions. Also, if they finish their introduction before the first 10 minutes in the first round, they will have extra time to answer extra questions. Also, the second round will be round robin Q&A. This will be a single-minute period where constituent questions will be each answered by all candidates, which means you guys will come up. We have your questions over here. I will call your name. You can ask your question, and each person will answer up to 1 minute, and they all three will answer the same question. So you can have a better idea of what each one stands for. And the last one will be each candidate will have 1 minute for the closing statement. Now what we have done as pre-agreed, we pulled the card, and the highest card will speak first in the first round, and in the third round, it will reverse, and the third person will speak the first. So as per the card spoken, our first candidate who will speak in front of us is Julia Peacock. Now the next clapping, cheering will be after the forum.
Aha. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Julia Peacock, and I will be your first Congresswoman from the 42nd Congressional District. I'm a public school teacher. I've been teaching for 11 years. During that time, I focused all of my career on low-income Title I schools, starting in Moreno Valley, teaching 7th grade English language arts to a school that was 74% free and reduced lunch. From there, I went on to Boys Republic, where I taught 5 years for boys who have been incarcerated in the criminal justice system. I taught the Read 180 program. I had 16 and 17-year-old boys who came to me with 2nd and 3rd grade reading levels. And then I taught the GED program, 17-year-olds with all the potential in the world who had gotten so sidetracked that they came to us with 5 or 10 high school credits and no hope of graduating. I'm proud. I have a stack of graduation pictures from those boys about this tall. Every week holding graduation ceremonies, encouraging those kids to go on to college. And now I teach high school English at Paris High School, another public school. I teach English 2, which is sophomores. I also teach Read 180 because we have too many of our students in our public schools now who read far below grade level. My school is 92% free and reduced lunch. That means I teach students whose families don't have enough money to buy their children food. We're 90% Hispanic, 6% African American, 2,400 kids. I became a candidate. I went from being a voter to an activist to a candidate, because the day after the election, I went to class, and my students were tired, scared, or they were absent, because they had been up all night with undocumented parents, wondering if they would go home that afternoon and their parents would still be there. And I realized that having just been a voter wasn't enough anymore. So I joined this nonpartisan group, Indivisible 42. And I became more active because I felt guilty for not having done enough. It wasn't enough to go to school every day and teach these kids and show them that spark that they already had inside of them that could take them wherever they wanted to go. It wasn't enough to raise my own children and teach them that it's okay to see color, but we embrace diversity. We don't punish it. We don't isolate it. And it wasn't enough just to go to the polling place once or twice a year and check a box or make a line. I had a greater responsibility to my students, my family, and to my community. And that's why I'm here today, because I'm taking my responsibility seriously, and a lot of you are doing those same things in your own lives. But I'm one of those crazy people that willingly jumps in headfirst. And so I'm looking to be your voice in DC, because we need a voice for the 42nd. We need a voice for the underrepresented and the underserved. We need a voice for the isolated. We need people who care about humanity more than they care about profit. We need people who are committed to every member of their constituency, not just donors. And I am that candidate. There are many things that you need as the constituents of the 42nd. And I'm not going to take up all of your time telling you what you already know you need. But for the conversations I've been having with people all over the community since I got into this race last February, we need health care. One of the first opportunities I had was to represent constituents in conversations about health care and what would happen to us if we lost the Affordable Care Act. I listened to people talk about their pre-existing conditions. I listened to people talk about their 4-year-old grandson with a heart condition. And then I kept seeing the word access that was coming out of this administration. Access to health care. Before the Affordable Care Act, we all had access to health care, but most of us were priced out of it unless our employer provided it. And I know because I had a friend who worked in the industry for years, who had to convince people to buy health care for their children, but not themselves, who had to give up vision and dental care to make sure that their kids could at least see a doctor once a year. My own brother-in-law and his wife have been doing that for years. They don't have medical insurance. They can't afford it. So even while the ACA was a good start, we need to take the next step. We need to shore up and protect that program now. And then we need to have a real, honest conversation about the fact that if we can put $700 billion into making better weapons and fighting bigger wars, why can't we take care of the health of our citizens? All of them. And we can do that with a gradual introduction in a Medicare for All system. We can start with children and pregnant women. We level out the financing of that because we can afford it. We can afford it as this weird. Even California is the 6th largest economy in the world. So don't tell me the United States can't afford it. We're one of the most powerful countries on this planet. It's not how much money we spend, it's where we spend it. So women and children, women and pregnant women and children, there we go. And then gradually we drop down by 10-year increments and we bring in the 55 and over. And then we keep going until every single human being in the United States of America does not have to choose between their prescription and the electricity bill. Does not have to wonder if that lump will get bigger because they don't have insurance. I'm a public school teacher. My children are products of the public school system, including my daughter who's at a public university. I'm a product of public school. Even still, with all the rhetoric about schools, public schools and public school teachers are still 93% trust rate in every community in our country. More than doctors, more than lawyers, more than police, teachers. We can no longer afford to play games with public education. We can no longer afford. I have sat in meetings at my school where administrators are talking parents out of services for their special education students because of how much it costs. Enough. No more playing games with our children's future. And we need to take that even further. We need to stop talking about K through 12. And we need to talk about from the time a parent needs to put their child into preschool until you are done learning whatever it is you want to learn to be whoever you want to be. We have $1.48 billion, strike trillion dollars of student loan debt in the United States right now. We are pricing our citizens and our dreamers even out of education. You should not have to be a millionaire to get the best education that you want, and you shouldn't have to pick your profession based upon how much it's going to pay when you're done. If you want to be a lawyer but you want to work for the ACLU, you should be able to do that. If you want to be a doctor but you want to open a public clinic in a low-income community, you should be able to do that. So we need tuition-free college, and we need it now. We owe it to our children and our grandchildren. We owe it to our children and grandchildren to protect our environment. No one should ever turn on a faucet in the United States of America and have something other than clean, clear water come out of that faucet. We will protect the EPA. Why? Because our children and our grandchildren are counting on us to leave this place better than we found it. There is so much more that we can get done. There is so much more that's being ignored. I promise you to be available to you in our community when I am not in session. I promise to answer your questions and pay attention to what matters to you, like Medicare and Social Security. And I promise to be the best Congresswoman, the best Congress member that you have ever seen in the 42nd Congressional District. I'm Julia Peacock, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, thank you, Julia. You have finished the first part of first round. Now we're going to go through a couple of questions which we have been asked for you specifically by constituents. The first question is, how you plan to continue your political campaign while you're teaching at Paris High?
Perfect. This is actually a great question that I get asked a lot. Well, how can she be a good candidate if she has to work full-time? Me working full-time shows you what's wrong with the political system, that you have to be a millionaire to go to Congress. If I quit, I don't get to pay my mortgage. My husband has a fantastic job, but he can't do it by himself. So we get to Congress and we make these campaigns publicly funded. And we end Citizens United. And then any one of you who wants to step up and lead in your community, in your state, or in your federal government doesn't have to be beholden to special interests and corporate greed. Yeah, I'm a teacher. It's one of the proudest things I've ever done besides having my own children. And I have a volunteer base that is absolutely stunning, who will be able to work on my behalf to pick up the slack. That is how I maintain being a teacher and a future Congresswoman.
Thank you, Julia. The next question for you is, what are your views on kill shelters in District 42? How will you promote foster adoption?
By killing shelters, I'm assuming you mean pets. Okay. Sorry, that was bad. Shh, no laughing. You know what? I'm a pet owner. We save pets in my house. My husband has he doesn't put his foot down very often because, it's me. But he has said, don't bring any more stray animals home. I don't own an animal that is purebred. I've never bought from a dealer. And so I actually am really disappointed. But if we don't do a better job of promoting adoption with animals, then they're going to still have kill shelters and they're going to keep doing it. So I do not believe in murdering wild horses. I don't believe in murdering wolf cubs and bears while they're hibernating and sleeping. And I don't believe in euthanizing animals either. I don't have a clear answer of how we stop this because I'll tell you what has to happen. We have to adopt those pets. And if we run promotions in our community about pet adoptions and we make it easy for people to adopt pets, pets, even for our older citizens, pets actually are a way for them to stay connected, a way for them to feel good. Pets lower your blood pressure and your heart rate. But that's going to be on us because we have to adopt animals. We have to spay and neuter animals. I have no problem promoting those kinds of clinics. Bring your pets in. I have a friend back in Ventura County where we used to live that she would put food out for stray cats, catch them, take them to the vet because vets will neuter and spay those pets for free. And then they put a little tick in their ear to let them know that it's a spay and neutered stray. So that's something that we could absolutely do. And any of you that work to protect and take care of pets, I'm more than willing to work with you on those types of things. Very passionate about my little stray, awful animals. I love them.
Thank you very much. We have received more questions for all the candidates than different number of questions for each candidate. So what we're going to do is this, that because she has some time left, we're going to pick some of your questions for the candidates who have time remaining so you can hear more and more about each issue. So the next question for you is, what will you do about gun control?
I am not anti-Second Amendment. And that's really one of the biggest arguments people make about Democrats, liberals, progressives. They want to beat on the Second Amendment without remembering there are a bunch of other amendments as well. I will protect law-abiding gun owners and their rights to own firearms. But I will demand that we enforce safety training. Because a child that grows up in a home with a gun is 7 times more likely to die by that gun than an average child. So if you're going to be a law-abiding gun owner, then keep it unloaded. Keep it in a safe. Keep it in one of those really cool fingerprint hand locks, right? And I know that that makes it much more difficult for self-protection, but we don't have the numbers proving that people need guns in their home for that kind of protection. We just don't have it. But we also don't have research on how many people are being murdered by guns, how many people show up in emergency rooms every year from gun wounds, because our government has never done enough to get that data for us. I will demand that we pay attention to the laws that are on the books already. We will not allow things like what happened with the Air Force to allow someone to slip through the cracks who's been accused of domestic violence. And I am running a mental health awareness fair at my high school in February because we don't have those services on our campus. And I know the difference between someone with depression and someone with serious mental illness. So we need to make sure that people who have serious mental illness do not get guns. And since I'm not taking special interest lobbying money from the NRA, I will never be beholden to them. We do deserve to be safe in our homes. We deserve to be safe in our communities as well. So I will protect law-abiding citizens' right to own their guns. Not coming for them, not going to legislate to come for them, but the rest of us need to be protected from illegal gun sales, gun show loopholes, mental health, and the other issues that put the guns in the hands of the wrong people. Absolutely 100%, I will not back down on that. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to ask you one more. What are your qualifications for the office?
I am a citizen of the United States of America. I have a right to be a public servant. For 11 years, I have managed up to 200 students a day. I currently serve as a representative to the National Education Association. I manage a family budget, may not be worth millions. It's not worth millions. I am a human being with a voice. And I'll tell you what, a lot of our politicians inherited money and inherited their seats from daddy. See, my dad died when I was 31 from colorectal cancer. And my mom died in a car accident when I was 10. So this life that I have, everything that I have earned from my education, everything that my husband and I do together to raise our family, everything I do as a human being, just like you and just like you and just like anyone else in this room who wants to be a public servant, qualifies me as your future Congresswoman. Because if we start making a list of the things you need to qualify to publicly serve, then we're stuck with the millionaires and the billionaires who are taking our right to a happy, successful, fruitful life. And I will not tolerate that anymore, and I won't apologize for not being a career politician. I think that's actually a bonus.
Thank you very much, Julia. We actually ran out of questions for you, so thank you very much. Have a seat. The next candidate who was chosen to go second is Matt Woody. You have 10 minutes to speak, and if you have any extra time left, we'll give it to you as your questions.
Thank you. Okay, hello everybody. How's everyone doing today? It's a great day. Let's see. I'm going to get the obvious thing out of the way first. I'm an independent, so that puts me probably squarely in the minority in this room, in the minority in this district as well. So, you know, but we're not going to dwell on that because in many ways that gives me an opportunity to connect with more people. People don't have blinders on when they talk to me. They have an open mind. And you know, it's really a shame with our political system that there aren't more independent candidates. You know, I can't remember the last time I voted for an independent because there's just so very few who actually run. I'd probably have to go back to 1992 or when I voted for Ross Perot to think of the last time I've voted for an independent. And I mean, I am an independent. I've always supported that idea of not being beholden to one party or another. And you know, unfortunately, that's evident today with politicians almost across the board. So, you know, actually, before I go any further, I want to do a quick audience participation here. So how many other independents or maybe people are registered? I can't do that? All right, very well. Thank you for telling me. So anyway, we won't talk about this particular audience. I'll talk about the district here. You know, it's a lot of Republicans. That's the way that it's voted in most of the elections here, even elections when the rest of the state has overwhelmingly voted for Democrats. So, you know, there's approximately 42% of the voters registered as Republicans in District 42. There's approximately 30% as Democrats, and then 20% either as independents or other minor parties. And if you look at the statistics of the last couple presidential elections, you had exactly, it's kind of an anomaly here, but you had exactly 41.4% of votes cast in 2016 for Hillary Clinton, and you had 41.4% of votes cast for Barack Obama 4 years earlier. Now that's despite the fact that President Obama had won the popular vote or received 3% higher in the popular vote than Mrs. Clinton did. So this district, regardless of if you have a fairly popular Democratic president or Democratic candidate, they're just inclined to vote for Republican. It's that party mentality that I'm very much running against, as much as I'm running against other candidates here and trying to win your vote. So looking at this last election, because the last election, to me, it really was a marked change from other elections. Yes, we've had fighting, we've had nastiness, we've had division. That's been going on for years in our country, but it really hit an unprecedented level last year. You know, I've talked to so many voters of both parties here in our district. I've talked to independents. Many people just say they were turned off by the two major candidates. They felt they had to choose the lesser of two evils. And that was sad, very sad. And for all of those who had that point of view, I can sympathize. I refuse to be part of that. I didn't cast my vote for the lesser of two evils. And you know, but it's really an indictment of our political system when you have to choose between the lesser of two evils. You're still voting for evil. So I think that that's something that needs to change. So the question is what to do about it. Well, part of what I'm doing, part of why I'm running, is because as an independent, I'm uniquely positioned to reject that and to focus on the principles, the ideals that all of us as Americans share. You know, there's unity to be had. You know, we saw what happened last year, but in reality, it's only the people on the far right or the far left who refuse to embrace unity. You know, it's only a fringe that wants to point at the other side and say, you guys are the worst, and never, ever going to happen. So most of us, the majority of our country, the majority of people in this district want to come together. They want to embrace what makes us Americans. For me, that starts with our Constitution. You know, it's the guiding document for our country. It establishes things that make us unique in this world. Equality. We're all equal under the Constitution. I don't talk about different groups. I don't talk about this ethnicity or that ethnicity, this race or that race, this you know, sexual orientation or that, because we're all the same. We're all equal under the Constitution. And that's one of the things that I hold dear. And you know, our freedoms, our liberties that are outlined. We've got the First Amendment that outlines our freedom of speech, the freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom to have no religion. And, you know, these are the things that are first in our Bill of Rights. We have the Second Amendment that protects Americans' rights to bear arms, which, as anyone who's been out in this district knows, you probably know from talking to your neighbors. You very well could be one of these people yourselves who care passionately about your Second Amendment rights. But that is so huge in this district, and the good news is I'm fully supportive of that as a bedrock of our Constitution. Another issue I talk a lot about, which the government has been infringing on constantly, is our Fourth Amendment rights against seizure of property, unconstitutional search and seizures. The government just voted last week to reauthorize mass surveillance under the FISA Section 702. So other principles, diversity of thought, compassion for one another, because we're all Americans, we're all humans, we're all people, and then opportunity, the way to have the American dream and achieve the American dream. We can seize a better future together as Americans. So first and foremost, we need candidates, we need elected officials with integrity. Integrity over ideology every time. If somebody has integrity, then who cares what their thoughts are on one idea or another? They can make the right choice. We can have confidence that they will make the right choice. And sadly, that's not in our government enough. And so I've taken what I call the For the People pledge. And I'm not taking corporate contributions. I'm not going to yield my integrity to corporations. I'm not going to take money from lobbyists. I'm not going to yield my integrity to lobbyists. And furthermore, I'm not going to even meet with lobbyists. So if and when I'm elected, they call my office, they'll be told, have your clients call us like any other constituent does. That's how American democracy was meant to be by our founding fathers. That's what I pledge to uphold as your representative.
Women are 51% of your constituency. What have you done in the past to prepare yourself to represent the majority, which are women?
Can I use the microphone too? Thank you. All right. Well, great. Thanks for the question, Diane. I know you and I have spoken by phone, so it's great to have my first question come from you. Yeah, women are, as you mentioned, the majority of the constituents in this district. And as I mentioned during my opening comments, I look through the lens of equality. Women are the same as men, and the pay gap that we have in this country needs to go away. Equal pay for equal work, and that's the principles that our country is built on. I've spent many years running businesses, and so I've had women working for me, I've had men working for me, and you treat everybody the same. You build a team, and it doesn't matter who that person is on your team, because you're going to have a diverse group on any team, whether it's in the government, in private life, in work life. And so you build a rapport. You show that you're worthy of working with each other. You build integrity, you build relationships, and that's what that's all about. So I will stand up for the women of this district, the women of this country, just as I would any other citizen. For the men, again, everyone's equal in my eyes.
Thank you. As we did with Julia, we might still have some time left, so we're going to take the questions which we're actually going to all, and we're going to ask him those. So the next question is, will you help teachers receive Social Security?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't see teachers as any different from anyone else getting Social Security unless there's something that I don't know about. But we all earn money in our careers. We all pay into the Social Security program, and then we all expect that to be there when we retire. And whether or not that's going to happen, because the way our government spending is going at this point. We are facing some serious budgetary issues. We have a national debt, your debt, my debt as taxpayers. It's our debt. I don't like calling it the national debt because it misrepresents what it really is. It's money that we all have to pay. $20 trillion, over $20 trillion, which works out to $60,000 per every single man, woman, and child in this country, and so that's insane. But I'm committed to, working to sustain the long-term viability of our Social Security program for everybody. It has to be done. The people who are retiring in the near future should not face any cuts to their Social Security. It's a contract that the government made with the people. Again, it's our own money that we've paid in taxes, and so that should not be taken away from anybody.
Okay, one last question for you. What is your position on healthcare?
Great, thank you. That's really the issue that pushed me into getting into this race more than anything. So, I've watched the Republicans trying to dismantle the AHC or the ACA back in March. I watched the AHCA pass in the House. That didn't happen till May, but they took their first crack at it in March, and it was so plainly obvious to me that getting rid of Obamacare, the ACA, would only hurt people. And so my campaign, my campaign slogan is independent for the people. And so everything that I think about, every position I take, every policy that I'm going to get behind and champion, it has to be about people. It has to be what's good for people. And so healthcare, watching this debacle unfold that would have hurt thousands, millions of people, is what made me get into this race. So Obamacare wasn't perfect. It had some major steps forward. Many more people got access to health care through the ACA. We got rid of pre-existing condition exclusions. We lowered or raised the age for kids to stay on their parents' health care. We eliminated the lifetime cap on health care benefits paid out. These were big steps forward. But the fact is, the Republicans wanted to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. They wanted to get rid of the good points as well as the parts that need improvement. And so what I want to see on healthcare is I want to see us eventually get to where we have universal healthcare. And the way I see to do that is not through single payer, which is sort of an unrealistic plan, but to follow the Obamacare model, the Romney Care model that was implemented in Massachusetts, where they have 99% coverage of their residents. So if the U.S. Congress had gone back and actually kept working on Obamacare over the last 8 years, the system would be farther along than it is. And we'd have much more coverage. But one of the biggest issues affecting our healthcare system, which actually is what causes the high costs, and nobody talks about this, but it's a system that needs a private free market solution, is the cost issue. Nobody talks about the cost of care. They talk about the cost of premiums. Well, premiums are high because the cost of care is high. And one of the biggest reasons the cost of care is high is because we don't have price transparency in healthcare. So you go to the doctor and you get a checkup, or you get, maybe you go get an x-ray. How much do you pay for that? You don't know. You pay your copayment if you have an insurance plan. What does the insurance company pay? They're not going to tell you what they pay. Maybe you'll get a statement after the fact. But the sad state of things in our country is neither providers nor patients have understanding of what their health care costs. So if we have transparency in pricing, that will bring health care costs down, because the doctors, clinics, radiography, surgeons, everybody will have to focus on, they'll have to be aware of what their services cost. They will compete on price as well. And so those of us who want to shop around and save $50 on a x-ray can do so. Those of us who are satisfied with the provider we've been going to, we can pay extra because we feel like we've been getting the service. So that's a free market solution that the Republicans have not talked about once in the whole debate. And it's the cause that I think is going to bring down health care costs more than anything, and one that I will be pushing to bring about more as one of my priorities.
Thank you very much, Matt. And that will be all for you today, at least for right now. Sorry. The next candidate is Dr. Norman Quintero. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you. That happened when you're short. Hi, I am Dr. Norman Quintero. I born in the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, which recently I heard that is an island surrounded by water. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I come from very humble beginnings. My mother was a single woman, and I never had the opportunity to meet my biological father. I was raised by my grandparents. My grandfather was the community milkman. My grandmother was a lady who ironed clothes for the neighbors. I was born with many congenital conditions and faced close to 27 medical surgeries while I was a child. My grandparents never gave up hope and worked hard to unleash my potential. They did not let my medical conditions and the financial limitation deter them from giving me a sound basis for success. I am the product of the American public school system. The dedication of my family and every one of my teachers made a difference and impact in my life. It was my teachers' willingness to bring the best out of each one of the students that provided me an academic path to success. I was admitted to the University of Puerto Rico at the age of 14. I became the student government president. My leadership skills were recognized by local Puerto Rican politicians and resulted in many policy changes on behalf of university students. I began delivering newspapers when I was 11 years old. My route included 80 of my neighbors. In 1979, I was named the best delivery boy in the island of Puerto Rico. At age 16, I started working for RGIS. I was an inventory clerk. The income from those part-time jobs helped me to go to college. I currently hold several doctorate degrees. After graduation, I began working for the Puerto Rican Governor's Office. I relocated to the state of Florida, where I became a real estate broker and a television and radio host, and began serving as a pastor of a non-denominational church. After a very difficult divorce in which I received custody of all my children, I relocated to the state of Texas, where I started my first church. I married a wonderful woman named Gloria, who is with us today. She worked at the Department of Defense with the Navy. Together, we're raising our children. Norman II, Gregory, Pablo, Hillary, Norman III, Carla, Jose, and Eric. We're very proud of our blended family, embrace our diversity, and promote inclusiveness. I practice real estate in the state of California and Florida, and I am a licensed real estate broker. I am also a mental health clinician licensed in the state of California, and I work in a clinic in the city of Menifee. I own many radio and television stations. I host a weekly television talk show that airs nationwide on Hispanic television and radio network. I am also the senior pastor of an Hispanic church in Orange County, California. Regardless of my financial success, I haven't ever forgotten my humble beginnings. This is why every month I use my own resources to fund a number of programs to help families in need, including a food bank, a soup kitchen, a food program for the homeless, mental counseling services, and provide toys for children of low-income families. This program helped hundreds of individuals and families every week. My life has not been easy. I had a humble beginning with medical challenges. I believe that every challenge has provided me with the tools in need to be a better father, husband, and man. As a father of 8, I am very concerned for my children's education. We need to continue our fight to ensure that all disadvantaged students and students of color are on the path to college or a trade career. As you might know, I am the product of the public school system. Our schools are more segregated today than they were when Brown versus Board of Education was decided. And we can still see wide disparities in educational outcome across racial and socioeconomic life. As a mental health clinician, I believe that health care is a right and not a privilege. And our healthcare system should put people before profit. I understand how critical it is to provide access to an affordable healthcare insurance that include mental health coverage. I will never falter in our generation-long fight to guarantee healthcare as a fundamental right for every American. It is shameful that our brothers and sisters continue to have the highest incidence, prevalence, and mortality rates from chronic illnesses. As a candidate, when we talk about jobs, I am a business owner. I'm very proud to say that all my staff is paid above the democratic minimum wage of $15 the hour. As a business owner, I've created hundreds of well-paid jobs, provide equal pay, pay sick leave, and created healthy work environment in which I promote inclusiveness and diversity. This is on the LGBT. I am a pastor, but I fully understand the message predicated in the scripture on the book of John 6:37. All those the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never drive away. I am the proud father of a gay son who has grown up to be a leader in the LGBT community. Together, we will fight for the continued development of sex discrimination laws to cover LGBT people. I will also fight for a comprehensive federal non-discriminatory protection for all LGBT Americans to guarantee equal rights in such as housing. I am a very humble man presented in front of you, requesting your vote, requesting you to know me, to earn your support on this political endeavor. I welcome any questions you guys have for me today.
I'm sure you can smell something going on, but everything under control. I think one of the system wires or something, but we're not on fire. At least not yet. Thank you, Dr. Norman. Now,
Welcome.
you do have an extra minute from your 10 minutes, so you have 11 minutes to answer the questions.
Sure, thank you.
now we go to the question part. The first question was asked by Lisa for you. It says, according to reports, did you really vote for Trump in 2016?
I love that question. I've been asked that many times. I've never voted for any Republican candidate in my life. I saw a photo that was circulating from a moment in which I went as the owner of Telemerica Hispanic Network and representative of Almavision Television Network. Both are Hispanic networks, nationwide networks. I was called to interview Donald Trump after he kicked out Jorge Ramos from Univision. We accepted the call. We traveled to the city of New York. And as soon as we get there, it was very chaotic. They tried to manipulate the outcome of my interview. And my wife and I decided to cross the street and do shopping in Praga before we let him manipulate our interview. Therefore, I never voted for him. I never wind up interviewing him because I will not allow myself to be a puppet of anyone.
Thank you. The next question is from Don Kindred. You sent me a text stating that you were supported by California Veterans Group. The
From
only
who?
California Veteran Group. The only Cal Veteran Group is out of Berkeley, California. Is this the one?
My text message said that I was supported by a VFW, not the California Veteran Group. Therefore, that is a correction.
So it's not the same group.
It's not the same group.
Thank you, Don. You will get your chance when you have 1 hour with him.
VFW,
Okay.
which stands for Veterans from All Wars, by the way, Don.
The next question is, can you confirm the Orlando Centennial that states your bachelor degree came from VAR, but your doctorate came from People's University of the Americas? Boy, this is a great handwriting. And the Florida Supreme Court ordered you to stop practicing law without a license to practice.
I don't know what he's referring. For you don't understand the question, neither do I.
Okay, let me
Okay.
repeat again. Can you confirm the Orlando Centennial that states that your bachelor degree came from VAR, but your doctorate came from People's University of the Americas?
I don't know what is BAR, therefore I cannot tell that. I know what is UPR, which is University of Puerto Rico.
Okay, that
which
could
is
be
a
it.
completely different thing.
Well, let's call it UPR because that looks like VAR. Okay, Florida Supreme Court ordered you to stop practicing law without a license to practice.
I don't know what he's referring about. I guess I was approached by Mark outside on the question. I'd rather decide to pass that question and not go into a fight that I have never, invited to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Then that will be all questions for you, Dr. Norman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much so far for being civil and no fireworks except some fire. Now we're going to go to a round two. Round two is a single 30-minute period where constituents' question will be answered by all candidates. So I will ask all three of you to come to the podium, and we're going to call the name of each constituent who actually given us a card. You can go ahead and ask your question. If you ask anything else besides what is written over here, I have a copy and I will stop you. So the first person is Eric Lemus. Will you please come forward? Okay. Now, you all have 1 minute each to respond.
Yusuf, can I qualify? We're going in opposite order?
Yes,
Okay, so
definitely. I'm
3,
sorry
2,
to say
1,
that.
then
So
1, 2,
now,
3, then 3, 2, 1.
yeah, so now Dr. Norman will be answering first, Matt, you'll be answering second, and Julia will be answering right this.
In order to make it easier.
Okay, this is actually a softball question. Yes. Can you tell us about your families, and how does this influence your viewpoints on education, health issues, and preserving family values? That's it.
Okay. Thank you. I value that question. But as I said before, I have 8 children. Therefore, I remarried. My lovely wife is in the room, is Gloria. We embrace diversity and inclusiveness. Having 8 kids, believe me, they're all different. But we learn from each one of them. We actually enjoy being the parents of the kids. We travel the world, we have fun, but each one of them have learned the value of working. They have learned the value of the principal values that make us different, which is equality, which is seeing everyone as equal.
Thank you. Matt?
Well, yeah, as far as my family goes, I've been married to my wife for 20 years, and she's my biggest inspiration. And we're partners, and we support each other. She even supported me taking on this crazy endeavor. We were not blessed with children, but that we are very happy to be aunts and uncles to our nieces and nephews. But my parents and my brother and sister also have inspired me and shaped my life. I mean, my parents taught myself, my brother, my sister, all of us, lessons of opportunity and hard work. They both came from very humble beginnings and have great achievements. They both, my mom just retired a couple years ago. My dad at 81 still works full time. And so that's what I get that.
Thank you, Matt.
Oh, geez. Safe. Yeah, I'm not graceful most of the time. I don't want to waste a bunch of time with that. Sir, to answer your question, my husband Kevin and I will be celebrating 23 years of marriage on April Fool's Day, and we picked that date so I could remember it because I don't remember dates. We have 2 wonderful children. My daughter Annie is 20, and my son Shane just started high school this year. Between us, you asked about health care. Between us, we have 7 pre-existing conditions. So health care is very important to me, which was one of the big arguments that a lot of people were making about protecting the ACA. And then moving forward into a single payer. As a public school teacher and I have my children go to public school, it's very important to me. Both our educational system and our healthcare system provide quality, stable environments for our children and their children. And so I believe we have much, much, much more to do to make sure that public education and our healthcare system is very, very financially supported at all levels. I'm really proud of the family that Kevin and I have raised together. He is my rock. He is my yin and yang for sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, can I ask Linda from Menifee to come forward and ask her question, please?
First, I want to thank all 3 of you for being here and putting yourselves out here so that District 42 can have choices in the coming election. We hear the words fake news batted around quite a lot these days. So I wanted to know, what are the news sources that each of you use to get information, to get accurate information that helps you shape your political opinions and positions? And then the other side of that would be, what media outlets will you employ to sell your positions to District 42 voters?
I'm really excited about this question because it's an opportunity for me to tell all of you. As an educator, we use...
Julia.
I thought it was number 1 goes first.
No, it's the whole...
Oh, the whole time. I'm sorry. My apologies. That's why I asked 3, 2, 1, then 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I understood exactly that. It's okay. Well, I use Google Scholar and many other access that I have through the university where I'm an alumni. As You know I own radio and television. I'm planning to use the sources that I know that I handle well. I'm planning to spread the message through TV, radio, newspaper, billboard, mailing, those alternatives that we can actually fund. We have the financial resources to spread the message of change.
Matt?
Well, yeah, this is a great question. I am a former journalist, a recovering journalist, if you'd want to put it that way. But I worked in the newspaper business for a decade or so. I worked for mainstream newspapers, the Arizona Republic, then even the Press Enterprise here for a few years, the Orange County Register, and then I got out of the business. So I subscribe to, I pay attention to the mainstream media, and I see nothing wrong with that. CNN is the cable I watch. You know, fake news is, I don't even know what to say about that. It's just silly. I mean, I've always been a discriminating consumer of news. I'm skeptical of everything. Maybe it's because I was a journalist, but you know, so none of that affects me. I look for the facts and form my opinions off those.
Now, Julia.
Now me. Okay, there is a fantastic website that I use with my students. It's called allsides.com. And basically what you can do is you can go on that website and you can look and see who's reporting to the far left and the far right, who are left of center, right of center, and who are running down the middle. I'm very proud of the fact that I follow NPR. It's public radio. That means it's not supported by corporations, except, you know, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which has a vested interest in making sure that our news is fair and equal. I will go online and I like to see what some of the other sides are saying, and I think that's really important. At home, personally, when I want to get angry, I watch MSNBC. Just saying, because it fires up that passionate person in me. You know, we don't have very good media coverage, or actually almost no media coverage in our district. And so what we're going to have to do to reach the voters is not count on the local press. We're going to have to count on a base of volunteers, people who want to actually talk about the campaign face to face with people. And I think that's going to be our strongest asset. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, can I ask Carol to come forward and ask the question? Is that yours? 2 questions. You can ask both. I'll pick one.
Hi. I'm nervous. I don't know if you guys are.
Just have a conversation.
I know. What would be your plan for DACA recipients and their families' parents, their parents?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear it.
What would be your plan for DACA recipients?
Thank you. As far as I remember, I've been fighting on behalf of immigrants. I think that it's time that this country do a comprehensive immigration reform. It is time for this government to legalize those DACA recipients. It is time to legalize the TPS recipient. It is time to bring justice to those people who work hard and comply with the United States laws. It's time to legalize every single one of them.
Matt.
Yeah, so I'm fully in support of the DACA program and those in it. I attended a rally for DACA. I call them kids, but they're all adults at this point. And so we definitely need to protect them, find a way. You know, the way I look at it, these were not people who made the choice to come here illegally. They were brought here by their parents, and we don't punish people in America for crimes or other things that their parents did. And so, yeah, we do need comprehensive immigration reform. That's one of the issues I think that both parties have failed our country with, because they'd rather play politics with it than work together. And so we need to push that. We had the Gang of 8 proposal in 2012, which I think is a great starting point to renew that debate.
Thank you.
Clean Dream Act now. Clean Dream Act, no strings attached, no wall. None of this stuff. These are children's lives. These are lives of people who are contributing $2 billion to our economy. And as for our families who have been here in our communities, law-abiding citizens who pay into a system they don't receive any benefit from, we need to make a path to citizenship. My friend Cynthia, it took her $14,000 and 16 years to become an American citizen. It is unconscionable that because of people's skin color, we're giving preferential treatment to anyone around the world. It is unconscionable that Customs and Border Patrol is between the 15 and the 2:15 when I drive to work in the morning, and I promise you they're not pulling over the white lady in the Hyundai. It's got to stop now.
Thank you. Cynthia Carr.
Given the strong Republican population of 42, how will you campaign to bring dissatisfied Republicans to support you? Because we got to win.
I love that question because that's exactly what I'm doing every day. I'm knocking on doors, talking to voters, regardless of party affiliation. I like numbers. You know, without NPPs, without Republicans, there's no way we can win this election. That's why I'm standing here in front of you asking for your support. I'm the guy who can win. I have the resources. I'm not shy of knocking on doors and talking to Republicans, letting them know that I need them and that I will be the congressman, not for the Democrats. I will be the congressman for every single citizen of District 42.
Thank you.
So yes, that's a great question. It's very true because the Republicans, as I mentioned in my earlier comments, 42% of registered voters here in this district. So that's one of the advantages I have as an independent candidate is people are willing to talk to me who aren't willing to talk to people of one party or another. I've spoken to so many Republicans who have told me straight to my face, good thing you're not a Democrat, I wouldn't even be listening to you. And I've had a smaller number of people on the other side say the opposite. So my message is a broad message. It's a message of unity. I'm appealing to what the things that bring us together as Americans. And, you know, and my positions are in the mainstream. Mainstream for this district, mainstream for the country. And that's what's ultimately going to unite voters of any particular political affiliation or lack of affiliation.
I've met a lot of people over the last year, and that's really a popular question. And it's very difficult because discussing politics, whether it's social media or even with family members, even right after the election, a lot of people said, I can't even talk to that family member anymore. So I actually don't open the conversation with, oh, by the way, I'm a progressive Democrat. I actually, when I meet someone, most of the time we're not wearing, unless we have an Obama or a Hillary shirt on, nobody knows what party you lean toward, or if you lean toward one at all. So the question I always ask when I'm meeting someone where I have no idea where they come from is, how do you feel about how this last year is going in the United States? And if they tell me I'm all good, it's great. I'm like, thank you very much, have a nice day. But when they start talking about how they're upset about the tax bill, or they talk about how we shouldn't be punishing dreamers and we shouldn't be funding corporations and millionaires, we open the door to the conversation. And it turns out that my policies are actually a heck of a lot more fiscally responsible than any of the Republicans now.
Thank you, Julia. Jill Wagner.
My question might be a little similar to the last one. With all the divisiveness in Washington right now and throughout the country and even in our own district and our families, how do you plan to bring partisanship into the House and into our district?
Thank you. Great question. I haven't got this far in life without building bridges. If I'm successful in my businesses, if I'm successful at church, it's because I have that gift, the gift of speaking to others, even the ones who are not in my side or don't agree with me, and bring consensus. If we want to work on behalf of the people of District 42, we need to learn how to put aside our differences and start building bridges that take us to the finish line.
Right.
So yes, partisanship dominates everything in our political system. It's unfortunate because the politicians are going to put party over country every time. I mean, we've seen that with the Republicans' tax bill. We saw it with the efforts to repeal Obamacare. And you know, when the Democrats were in control, we saw that as well. I can go back to and cite examples back when Bill Clinton was president and also with President Obama. But so we have to put that aside, and the best way to do that is by electing independents who are not beholden to any sort of political party, who can put the constituents of their district first every time, and that's me. And that's what ultimately is going to lead us to a different future than the one we seem to be on.
Thank you so much for your question. Publicly funded campaigns, and Citizens United, and term limits. Term limits. Right now, we re-elect and elect representatives every 2 years, and that means they spend those 2 years in office lobbying for bigger donations so they can fill their campaign coffers. And that's given people excuses not to talk to real human beings who actually need help. And so if we take the money out of politics, then every representative in the United States, regardless of party, becomes beholden to actually the people that they serve. It becomes my responsibility to come back into my district and not have $1,000 fundraisers, but to actually sit with people who need my help. And then what we do with term limits is we nurture the next generation of leaders. We don't grow old and we don't grow lazy in office. We pave the way for the next public servant.
Thank you, Julia. Renee?
First, I'd like to thank you for being so transparent. I love that. Being a nonprofit, my question is, what is your position with the homeless? Oh, I'm sorry. What is your position with the homeless? And if any, how would you support it or how would you resolve the issue?
I love it because that's one of my missions. I've been for the last 20 years dedicated many financial resources to help the homeless. You can see me every week in a different city with a truck full of food, giving food to every single homeless. But just a month ago, I was in a project in the city of Adelanto. I've been helping these people for long. But a couple of ladies approached me and said, hey, I need help. We are picking up all the young girls who are pregnant and their parents kicked them out of the house. And we immediately jumped in and funded that house, House of Moses, in San Bernardino. I've been working for homeless, not now, I've been working for them for the last 20 years.
Thank you. Matt?
So yeah, the homeless is an issue that I care very, very strongly about. Yeah, I talk about for the people as my campaign. Well, the homeless are people, and they're marginalized. We want to push them away. I mean, our own city, we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of homeless here, and I know that our city leaders are looking to try to move some of them out. And other cities in the area, that's been their tack too. Get them into a different city. Let's get them out of Corona. Let's get them out of Elsinore. Let's get them out of Menifee. So You know, we need to invest. We need to invest in programs to help the mentally ill, help the homeless. We cannot leave anybody behind. This is, you know, we're the greatest country in the world, and we should be judged as a society how we treat the least among us. So, you know, it makes it even more important to cut unnecessary government programs to fund things like that.
The state of Utah has a Housing First program that they nurtured for 10 years. We need to use the models of great cities and states that are already making sure that the homeless have a place to live. And Housing First is the way to do that. And this is not a Republican or Democratic issue, it's a humanitarian issue. We need to stop criminalizing people and arresting people for feeding the homeless in their communities. We need to hold local and county governments accountable. And we have some great candidates running for the city council right here in Corona to help us do those things. We need to support veterans because they make up at least 25% of our homeless. I met a gentleman up in Sacramento who was arrested for sleeping on the lawn of the VA. He served 3 tours in Vietnam. What kind of country are we when we do that? If we don't shore up these programs and make sure that we have the mental health services to help those who are difficult to house, then we are just putting lip service.
Thank you, Julia. Brendan?
Okay, what has been your community involvement for the last decade? Please.
I love those questions because I've been working for the community. You know, my business been a great source of income for my family. Keep in mind, I came from nothing. I don't need my grandma delivering milk, my grandpa, but because I've been blessed and I've been able to achieve success in my businesses, I dedicate a great amount of time to work with people in need. I do it on a weekly basis. I'm not ashamed of doing it. I do it out of any TV cameras or microphones. I do it because I believe that the same opportunities that I've received in my life, everyone is entitled to those. Therefore, I'm the guy who's been working for people for longer than I can remember.
Yeah, great question, and unfortunately, this is an area where I have not done as much as I could. And I have to freely admit that. So I've spent the last decade of my life working jobs. You know, I've been running restaurants essentially. That's been my career. So with that, with the number of hours required, with the nights and weekends that entails, I have not been able to be as involved in my community as I want, and that's something I'm learning from. I'm getting more and more plugged in, you know, yes, I've participated in certain things along the way. I've been a consistent blood donor over the years, but that, you know, my eyes and my heart has been open to do more as I've gotten more involved here.
Luiseno Elementary School, vice chair for fundraising for while my daughter was in elementary school. I also volunteered and coached kids baseball, Temescal Valley Little League. Even after my son moved on, I stayed and coached an extra year to work with the kids that were still doing coach pitch. Those are unpaid positions. I mentor the peer counseling and started that program on my campus. I'm also the advisor for Friday Night Live on my campus, a program that supports healthy alternatives instead of drugs and alcohol. I've taken my students on leadership. I'm a member of we.org, which is a movement to help students turn me into we, to help not just their local community, but their global community. There are things that I have been doing as an educator and as a parent all along, volunteering for the Booster Club now that my son has made high school baseball team. We're going to be they do itty-bitty t-ball. That's where my son got started when he was 3, and I get to help do that now that he's actually one of the coaches. I'm really proud of my community service.
Thank you. Kathleen Crane?
What is your purpose in running, and what do you want to accomplish?
I love it. I don't think that in 60 seconds I can answer that question. I'm running to make a difference in our community. I'm running because I know that I can contribute to a better life of this country. I have many things that I can do. We can talk about jobs. We can talk about immigration. We can talk about education. We can talk about LGBT. We can talk about environment. We can talk about many issues. But at the end of the day, I can tell you I'm capable of doing. I have the knowledge. I'm the only bilingual candidate. I'm the only well-educated with 3 doctorate degrees candidate for this position.
Thank you.
So, yes, I obviously want to make a difference. I think all of us want to make a difference. But I see that our system is in need of change. You know, we have a system that can produce a President Trump, through scorched earth politics, division, us versus them. And I say no more. You know, the only us should be us, we the people, and them should be the government and the parties that are trying to, curtail our rights, our power. And so, there's a chance to help usher in a new era in politics of unity, of individuality, of true representation for the people, and so that's what I'm standing up for. That's what I'm fighting for every day. I'm out talking to people, and it's a message that resonates. Hopefully it's resonating here in this room as well.
Thank you.
I'm running for you. That's who I'm running for. I'm running for your right to love who you love. I'm running for your right to not be afraid that you'll be arrested because you don't have the proper paperwork. I'm running to help my dear friends in the Muslim community to stop being targets of hatred and white pride. I am running for our children. I'm running for our future. I'm running because no one listens to us in the 42nd. Not the national parties, not our current government, and we deserve to be cared about. And if I'm brave enough and crazy enough to take this step forward, then you tell me what I'm running for.
Thank you very much. We are down to 1 minute, and we have 3 questions which are exactly the same, which was asked by Carol, Linda, and it says Marietta. I'm sure they're talking about the city. And they all are talking about what are your thoughts on universal health care? The second question is this: please explain your position on preservation of Medicare and Social Security versus privatization. And a third, if you are a Democratic candidate, what are you going to vote with the party? Or are you going to vote for the support of better health care? So go ahead, and you can take 1 minute to answer, and that'll be the last question.
Healthcare. I believe that we need to develop the ACA. I believe that everyone has the right to receive affordable healthcare in this country. I do not agree on privatizing Medicare, Social Security, those things. I think that it will be a bad idea. And lastly, I will vote with the Democratic Party from my seat in Congress.
So I did talk about healthcare earlier, and again, it's an issue that's very much central to my campaign, and so I'm going to push to expand healthcare as much as possible. But that's going to take time. It's going to take fixing the system, fixing what's wrong with the system now. I talked about Social Security earlier, and it seems with the nuance of the question with teachers, perhaps I'm not up to speed on the particular retirement needs of teachers. But as I mentioned, I believe that Social Security is a contract. It is what we've pay into as American taxpayers, and that should be protected. Medicare covers the poor, the mentally ill, and people who that social safety net should be covering, and that needs to be protected as well.
Thank you.
My friends in the audience who are already receiving Medicare, you know exactly what the biggest issue with Medicare is right now, and that's the pharmaceutical piece. Because our government didn't go far enough to negotiate with the pharmaceutical industry to keep your cost of prescriptions down. And we've already seen medicines expand exponentially as far as their price is concerned. So universal health care keeps keeps a private option in there, and that's a problem if we're not going to negotiate with the insurance industry and pharmaceutical companies. Back in 2016, the CEO of United Healthcare, of which my employer provides for me, made $63 million bonus check. And I'll bet some of you can't afford your prescriptions. As for Social Security and Medicare, those are not entitlements. You've paid into those systems, and we owe it to you to give it back to you. And it is not a bargaining chip for the stock market. All you have to do is ask what happened back in 1929 as to why we don't put your health care and your well-being in the stock market.
Thank you very much, Julia. That concludes our second round. Just a disclaimer, we got quite a few questions from the attendees, but some of them did not put the name on it. They were great questions, but we cannot ask you to come forward if you have not put your name on it. And also there are a few which we cannot make it to because we ran out of time. But all three of them will be here for about an hour. You can go up to them and ask them questions. Having said that, we're going to move forward to our last round, which is your closing statements. So we're going to go back to the way we started. The Julia will go first as a closing statement, and you only have 1 minute. Yes.
Ready? Begin.
Go.
My name is Julia Peacock. Peacockforcongress.com. Thank you so much to Indivisible 42 for giving us this incredible opportunity. To the Islamic Society of Corona, Norco, their beautiful general secretary, who opens up her community to all of us anytime we need it. And to every one of you who cares so much about our district, and those of you from outside of our district who care so much about our greater Inland Empire, that you gave up your time today to come listen to what we had to say. It matters so much that you continue to be voters. You continue to hold elected officials and candidates accountable, because this is your livelihood. This is your future. These are your jobs and your education and your health care and your well-being that we have to commit to protecting and fighting for. So I want to thank all. Oh, thank you. I wasn't looking at her. I apologize. Thanks.
So yes, it's been a great day. I'm glad everybody turned out to hear from all of us and get a better idea of what the needs are of this district as far as representation goes. I know I've learned a lot sitting here listening to the questions and listening to the other candidates. So what I would just do is thank you, and look forward to chatting with you more. And if you think my message appeals to you, then I'm not surprised. But it's a message that I'm reaching out to everybody, no matter where they fall on the political spectrum. And I would encourage you to join with me. Let's work together. Let's take our district back from the forces that don't want the people to be in control. Thank you.
Dr. Norman.
Thank you all. I'm honored by this opportunity. I met many of you earlier today, and I'm blessed. I'm blessed of knowing that you care. I'm blessed of knowing that you took your time to come and listen to three candidates, maybe in similar positions, different positions, it doesn't matter. We're trying to make a difference and flip District 42. I humbly request your support. Please visit my website, drnormanforcongress.com. Don't let anybody drive you by alternative facts. We don't believe in those. Go and check the record. Go and do your search. And come June, vote for the one that represent your values, that represent diversity, and that represent inclusion. I'm Dr. Norman Quintero, and I'm counting on your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now you can go ahead and give them a round of applause, please. And I think you all deserve a round of applause for yourself because you guys are great audience.